Okay, so benchmark 19 is I can solve and graph inequalities, so it's important to review some of these signs. The less than sign, which also means no more than, greater than, which means no less than or equal to, which means at most, or greater than or equal to, which means at least. Make sure that you write down all of this in your notes, including the keywords, just so you have them when we do word problems. So if we look at these two examples below, x is less than 4. That means we can plug in any number that's less than 4 to make that statement true. So we could have 1 is less than 4, but we cannot do 4 is less than 4 because they're equal. That's not less than. If we look at the next example, this says x is greater than or equal to 3. So we can put 3 in this solution because 3 is equal to 3, or we can put any number greater than 3. So when we solve inequalities, it's just like solving an equation. We still have two sides and we want to get x by itself. So if we have 2 times x is less than 4, we can divide both sides by 2. Those 2's cancel. So x is less than 2. So this would be our final inequality. So if we look at another one-step inequality, we have 3 plus x is greater than or equal to 7. So in this case, we would subtract 3 on both sides because that 3 is positive. And those cancel over here. Bring down the x. So x is greater than or equal to 4. And that would be our final inequality. So we can also have two-step inequalities if we solve them just like two-step equations. We would subtract 3 on both sides. We get rid of our constants first in a two-step equation. Bring down the 2x, bring down the sign, and do our subtraction. And then we would divide both sides by 2. So x would be greater than or equal to 1. Now let's try a two-step inequality with a fraction. So again, we have two sides, and we have to move our constants over first. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. Those 3's cancel. We're left with 1/2 x is less than 8. And then again, our last step is to divide by 1/2. And when we divide by a half, it's the same as multiplying by 2. So x would be less than 16. One important rule to remember with inequalities is when you divide or multiply inequalities by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. So if we look at the example below, negative 4 times x is less than 12. If we divide both sides by negative 4, the 4's cancel, we're left with x, and now we flip the sign to make it greater than 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. So be careful when you have these negatives that you flip the sign of the inequality here. So now that we know how to graph or solve inequalities, now we need to know how to graph inequalities. We're going to graph them on a number line, but when we graph them on a number line, we either use an open circle or a closed circle. And it depends on the sign that we have. So if we have just a less than or a greater than sign, we use an open circle. And if we have a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we use a closed circle on our number line. So if we look at the first example that's already solved and we want to graph x is less than 4, we have to put 4 on our number line and then put a few numbers bigger and a few numbers smaller. Now remember, not every number line has to have 0 or look the same, so just make sure you put your number line however the problem needs it to go. So we're going to put an open circle on 4 because we have the less than sign. So we're going to put an open circle on 4, and since this is less than, we're going to shade the numbers on our number line that are less than 4. So we're going to shade to the left, everything to the left. So this is saying that all the numbers to the left of our 4 will work for this solution. So if we plugged in 3 for our solution, 3 is less than 4. That's a true statement. But if we were to plug in a number to the right, like 5 or 6, 5 is not less than 4, so that will not work. Okay, so when we shade our number line, we're shading our solutions. So on this one we have to solve it first. We have to get x by itself, and then we can graph our inequality. So when we go to solve this, we would divide both sides by 2. Those would cancel. So x would be greater than 6. So on our number line, we would put 6, a few numbers bigger, and a few numbers smaller. And we're still going to use an open circle this time because of our sign. So we're going to put an open circle on 6, but since it's greater than, we're going to shade the numbers that are bigger than 6. So we're going to shade this way. So again, we can check our solution. So 7 is greater than 6, and that's the way we shaded it. But if we plugged in 5, 5 is not greater than 6, so that one would not work. Now let's look at a two-step inequality. So again, we solve them the same way as we would a two-step equation. So we would subtract 2 on both sides. Those 2's cancel. Bring down the 1/3 x. Bring down your inequality sign. 3 minus 2 is 1. And then we would divide by 1/3, which is the same as multiplying by 3. So x is less than or equal to 3. So if to graph this, we would put 3 in the middle, a few numbers bigger, and a few numbers smaller. And this time we use a closed circle because we have greater than or less than or equal to. So this is saying that we can include 3 in our solution because 3 is equal to 3. And since this is x is less than or equal to 3, we're going to shade the numbers less than 3 on our number line. So if we look at the solutions we shaded, 1 and 2 could be replaced with x, and that statement would be true, but 4 and 5 would not work. Okay, so if we look at our next example, again, first we have to solve it, and we want x by itself. So we have to subtract 5 on both sides. So we would have negative 3x is less than or equal to 6. And now we're dividing by a negative 3. So this is where we have to flip the sign. So negative 3 divided by negative 3, that cancels. And we have x, flip the sign, to greater than or equal to negative 2. So this is the inequality that we'll graph. So we can have negative 2, negative 1, 0, negative 3, negative 4. And we would use a closed circle on negative 2. Because whenever we have that line underneath our sign, we use a closed circle. And since x is greater than or equal to negative 2, we're going to shade to the right. So go ahead and try this example on your own. Pause the video, work through it on your own, and when you're done, play the video to check your work. So to solve this one, we would subtract 3 on both sides. So we have 1/2 x is greater than 1. Divide both sides by 1/2. And x is greater than 2. So to graph this one, we put our number line together. And we're going to use an open circle on 2. And since x is greater than 2, we're going to shade the numbers greater than 2. Okay, that is the end of video for the Benchmark 19. Please make sure you wrote down all the examples. Go back and watch the video again if you need to, and let me know if you have any questions.